to keep yourself, but I could never stop falling.
Hello, welcome to The Art Spoken, and today I'm going to be talking about who art therapy is good for. Whenever I talk about art therapy, people will often ask me, oh, so who's that good for? For children? Or they'll say, do you work with kids? And to this day, I still don't actually know why people often assume I work with children, but today I wanted to shed a little bit of light and open your understanding to who art therapy is good for and who it can benefit. First of all, everyone of all ages. Why not? Of course, your age will determine what your goals and what your life experiences might be, but that's down to the art therapist to be able to assess and to be able to understand and to navigate. A session that's done with a child will vary to a session that's done with an adult, but that's okay. An art therapist is there to be able to help somebody to use the correct mediums or the best mediums, also to do the best activities that will best serve the client to be able to achieve their goals without over-challenging them, but also utilizing their understanding and their strength and their interests. The second group of people that art therapy is really good for is anyone who has something that they want to look at in their life or something that they want to work on a personal level. All you need is some sort of desire. People come to therapy for many different reasons, as individual as the individual themselves, but some of the most common things that people go to therapy for vary from work challenges, relationship problems, mental health challenges, body image, self-esteem, anxiety, grief. Whether it's a goal that somebody wants to achieve, a challenge that they want to be able to overcome, or an experience that they need to work through and want more understanding about, then that is enough. Simply having the desire and the interest to be able to do those things is enough for a therapist to work with and to use art to help you to be able to achieve those goals. The next group of people who really benefit from art therapy are trauma victims. When a person goes through something traumatic, anything from the death or loss of a loved one through to natural disasters, violence, rape, war, accidents or injury, the body and the brain do things that they think will help the person be able to cope with that trauma. A lot of the time, somebody can't remember the traumatic experience they've actually had because the body blocks that explicit memory. It's stuck somewhere in the brain. Something else that happens is that a person is unable to talk about the trauma that they have, even though the memory and the pain and the feelings associated with that trauma are still in their mind. Something that will happen is that the memory of the traumatic experience will get stuck inside the brain. And then what the brain does to help the person to be able to cope with the memory of that experience is that they cut out the neural pathways. It cuts it off so that somebody is actually unable to talk about the trauma. So somebody could be experiencing distress, they may be having flashbacks, they may be feeling certain emotions, but they're unable to talk about it even if they want to because the brain has cut off those neural pathways to be able to talk about it. Then that's where art comes into play. Somebody can make art about their experiences, their feelings, their day-to-day life. Through the art and through the art making, the therapist and the client can begin to talk about the art and the process. So somebody can begin to relieve those feelings and those memories and those experiences that are trapped in their mind, put it into the artwork, and then the therapist and the client can talk about the artwork. Then they have bypassed that feature, that function that the brain has done, which is cut off that ability to talk about the trauma, but they can still talk about the trauma and find relief, find comfort, help them to be able to process that traumatic event. The art then becomes a new voice for the person and their trauma. Art therapy is also really popular when working with people who are on the autism spectrum. Depending where somebody is on the spectrum will determine how affected they are by autism, but something really common is that people who are on the autism spectrum really struggle to use words and to use language and to be able to speak. They often really struggle to put their thoughts and experiences into words. This can be really frustrating for people with autism and often will lead them to shouting, squealing, screaming, or kind of having these tantrums where they're not saying anything, but they're really verbalizing a lot. Art allows people with autism to take that energy and bypass having to talk, but to create artwork instead using a variety of mediums. People with autism are known to think in images, and so art therapy encourages people to be able to create images. So this is a way that people who have autism can actually get their thoughts out, and people can see what they're thinking and they can begin to communicate through art rather than having to rely and become so frustrated when they don't seem to be able to verbalize or to put things into words. People with autism also often struggle with different textures and sensations. This will often lead to them having outbursts as well. Art therapy allows a therapist to introduce different forms and different mediums for somebody to be able to work with. Everything from the stickiness and the coolness of paint and glue through to the fluffiness and the warmth that may come from working with yarn or working with fabric. The therapist continually introduces and holds a safe space for somebody with autism to work with these different materials. The person will then become more desensitized to the extreme differences of feeling and touch and sensation. This then begins to decrease the number of outbursts they may have, other symptoms or other signs of shock or change. It helps them to be able to go into different environments and interact with different things without having a complete outburst. The ways that art therapy benefits people with autism is so vast, and there's a lot of work that has happened in this area and a lot of work that continues to happen in this area as well. But if you're somebody you know has autism or is on the spectrum or you think might benefit, then art therapy is really a great way to be able to help people with autism. Another area where art therapy has been seen to benefit people greatly is in the group of people who suffer with Alzheimer's or dementia. People who have Alzheimer's or dementia often live in a loop of experience, and this can be really distressing for people, whether they're the people suffering with the condition or the people around them. They will often relive the same experiences, feel that they're in the same time or the same place, and so people with dementia or Alzheimer's are often very agitated, sometimes distressed or angry as well. By doing art, it allows the person to enter into the present moment, and so they're not so caught up and trapped in their thoughts and in their memories or that loop of memory, and instead they can enjoy being in the moment. They can see something in front of them that they're creating, whether that's painting or collage or something like that. Allows the person to shift their energy and to focus on what's at hand. As people progress through dementia and Alzheimer's, they begin to lose their ability to be able to speak and to be able to use language and words to be able to communicate. And just like the other areas that I've been talking about today, art therapy gives that person an opportunity to be able to communicate without having to use words. People who are in early stages of dementia or Alzheimer's often are still quite high functioning, but have the desire for their story to be heard, the story of their life, for lessons to be taught and to leave some sort of legacy behind. Through different art projects, it's a great way for people with dementia or Alzheimer's to be able to leave that legacy and to create something to leave with people around them, especially family and dear friends. It is also really therapeutic and uplifting for somebody with dementia to be able to see that they can still create something of worth. So they can create something beautiful in the art room, and this helps them to feel a sense of contribution and a sense of community. Like I said, the reason why people go to counselling or therapy varies, And people of all ages and in many circumstances do go to therapy and to counselling. Art therapy is a fantastic way which lends itself to people who may find communicating verbally or using language to be quite limiting. Also, people may just really enjoy creativity, or it's something that they want to learn more about or do more. And so art therapy gives people that opportunity to be able to use creativity to help them to be able to heal and to have a better quality of life. If art therapy is something that you're interested in and you want to know if it could benefit you or someone that you know, then please feel free to contact me and to contact the Artspoken with any questions, or also to book in a session where you can experience art therapy for yourself. Thanks.
To keep